Hey everyone, hope you're having an amazing day. This is FC with CappersDirect.com here to talk to you guys about this upcoming Bellator card going down on Friday, December 9th. Bellator 289 is coming at you from the Mohegan Sun. It's going to start at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And right now, we're going to give you guys a quick preview of the main card, so stick around. Now, the main event of the night. We have Raufeon Stots versus Danny Sabatello coming at you from the bantamweight division. This is going to be for the interim bantamweight championship. Man, these guys are both really, really good. Raufeon Stots coming at you. He's 33 years old. He has one loss on his record to Merab Dvalishvili, which we know Merab is a takedown fiend. Even though in that fight, Merab ended up hitting him with like a spinning back fist and ended the night early, we didn't really get to see what a dominant wrestler would do to Raufeon Stots, who we know is one of the best in the world. And that's what it boils down to. In this fight, we're looking at one of the best in the world who is an outstanding wrestler who has been working his striking and getting better and better. In his last fight, he hit a head kick knockout from hell. I mean, the kid has power. He's a two-time NCAA Division II national championship, so you know his wrestling's on point from top position. Now, in recent fights, especially in his last fight, Juan Archuleta was able to get Raufeon Stots down and really give Raufeon Stots a lot of trouble. And that was sort of surprising because before, Raufeon Stots had fought a pretty credentialed wrestler in terms of like Dagestani wrestling, right? This Russian wrestling, and did extraordinarily well. I mean, I was really surprised with everything that Raufeon Stots was going to do. I think he was like a plus 300 underdog in that fight and still came out doing work, you know? So Raufeon Stots is a stud, man. I consider him to be one of the best in the world, but he's going up against a killer in Danny Sabatello. Danny Sabatello is coming at you, 29 years old, the Italian gangster. And the guy, the guy exudes this Italian gangster mentality. I mean, the guy looks like he's straight from the Jersey Shore. He's going to come in here with crazy hair, very, very tan, and the guy is a chain wrestler through and through. The guy, I remember when he beat Brett Johns in Bellator. It was either, I think it was his first fight in Bellator. Brett Johns was coming from the UFC. Brett Johns is a fighter from Wales, but really great in the wrestling department. They call him the Pikey. The guy is good when it comes to grappling. We know that that style of wrestling may be inferior to, or not inferior necessarily, but we know that the wrestling overseas doesn't necessarily compare to the wrestling here in the United States when it comes down to like freestyle wrestling and American wrestling and really MMA wrestling. So Danny Sabatello embodies that chain wrestler, though. He was able to take down Brett Johns over and over, dominate that fight. We had Danny Sabatello as an underdog because we knew what he brought to the table. He did this in this Dana White Contender Series fight. I'm pretty sure he dominated that fight to the point where he got 10-8 rounds. That's how good he is, right? When it comes down to the wrestling. When it comes down to training, Raufeon Stots has been doing a lot of cross training. He trains out of Rufus Sport, but he also, ever since he's all these fighters that look to level up end up going to other camps and testing themselves and trying to get better, trying to see what other game plans look like, trying to see what other coaches look like. So Raufeon Stots has been doing that. He's been working on his craft very well, working on his striking. Obviously, we saw in this last matchup, head kick was crazy, right? It was a nice kick. It was good. Danny Sabatello, now his training regimen, because he's such a good wrestler, a lot of people do come to him for wrestling. So I see him a lot of times wrestling. And if you look at his record, he is 13-1, and he's going up against an 18-1 guy. He's 13-1 because in that one loss, he did get finished by, I think it was a body shot. But in that fight, he was pretty gassed. And that was really what it boiled down to. I told you guys in the UFC early look that when fighters get gassed, they can get taken out. They can get finished quickly. They can look like they're out of it when really they're just trying to stand up because they're just gassed. Danny Sabatello has since fixed those things. He showed in his last fight that he's got gas for days. He takes people down, chain wrestles them, gets their back, tries to ground and pound, tries to submit them, tries to put in chokes, tries to just make it miserable for them. He based himself. He's a war of attrition type guy. He's going to take you down and wear you out and eventually make you quit. That's what he wants to do in this fight. It's going to be extraordinarily interesting to see the wrestling of Danny Sabatello versus the wrestling of Raufeon Stots. And if Raufeon Stots has really leveled himself up in the striking, he should be able to show it here. But again, that pressure from Danny Sabatello and the things that we've seen from Raufeon Stots in his last fight, where Juan Archuleta was able to get him down and able to nullify a lot of the offensive Stots before the one big kick, right, from hell. It's going to be an interesting fight. Tune in. I will have the write-ups to you Thursday night, Friday morning. Friday is, again, this event happens on Friday. And just because, again, quick disclaimer, if I say I like one person or the other, doesn't necessarily mean that bet is going to be locked in. You guys have to know that I'm giving you a first look at information that you may not have, and also give you a little bit of information in terms of who's fighting, so you guys know, like, damn, this fight's going down, so that on Friday it doesn't sneak up on you. So look out for that write-up. In the meantime, this is just a quick glance, so let's enjoy it. Let's get into your next fight. The next fight on this card is going to be another championship fight. We have something that's already taken place. We have Liz Carmouche versus Juliana Velasquez. Let's get into it. Now, the next fight on the card is going to be a rematch for the championship belt. We have Liz Carmouche versus Juliana Velasquez 2, actually. And it's going to be in your Bellator MMA flyweight division. Liz Carmouche is the current champion. We actually saw this matchup already play out, and we were heavily on the Liz Carmouche side. She was a big underdog in that fight, and I remember putting it out, and then that line jumped. That line moved drastically from a big underdog to a slight underdog by the time the fight kicked off. I could understand why. I mean, in that fight, I mean, I was in the Liz Carmouche side because of her grappling, her wrestling. Before we knew that Liz Carmouche was working on her striking more, was working on her footwork. In her mind, I think the longevity of her career is going to be had with that footwork, with some of those takedowns and transitioning. So she's working on her footwork. You see her standing more. If it were up to me, I'd rather see this girl just go down there and dominate people. She's very, very, very strong. I mean, they don't call her the gorilla for no reason. You know, the girl has some strength, and you see it in there. She's muscled up, she's yoked up, and she's an ex-military veteran. Again, she's almost 39 years old. Again, Liz is almost 39 years old. When she won the title, it kind of rekindled the fire within her. She was already sort of rekindled with the move to Bellator, but just winning the title just it ramped her up even more. She brought in more people in order to help her for this camp. She knows that there were some deficiencies last time. But again, she's a heavy wrestler, military veteran. She works hard on her striking, and I think she's going to want to show some of that here. My expectation would be that they would go to what worked. And in the last fight, we saw Liz get a takedown after losing most of the fight. She was losing, and it was not pretty at first. After losing most of the fight, she ended up catching up, getting around, and then it was a good takedown, and Velasquez accepted bottom, it seemed, for a little while there. And Liz is very, very heavy. So sometimes you got to just accept bottom with Liz on top of you. But then Liz got her in a crucifix, and in that crucifix started raining down blows. Now, a lot of people believe that this fight was stopped prematurely. Velasquez was starting to catch an elbow, and the ref stepped in, because afterwards the ref did speak out about it and said that he could see what was going to transpire, right? It was going to be bad. She had already caught 2 strong elbows in his mind, and he could see that this was not going in a good direction. So he stopped the fight. But it was a championship fight. The champion's on the ground. You got to give her a chance to fight out of that. She was fighting out of it. She protested immediately. It was one of those fights. But the biggest thing I think to take away from that first fight is that Juliana Velasquez looked big, and she was able to stuff some of those takedowns. Eventually her feet got tangled up, and Liz did push through, and we did see that. But I mean, an immediate rematch, because Juliana was dominating that match before Liz ended up getting her down and putting her in that crucifix position. Liz ended up walking away with the championship. Juliana Velasquez super, super pissed over the whole thing. Juliana's like 36 years old herself. I think that this fight, this loss, did light a fire under her. Most of the times, she did lose when she does have close fights, or she feels like she didn't have a great performance. It will light a fire under her, and she will come back stronger than ever. I do expect her to come out very, very strong in this fight, but Liz is strong. Are the takedowns of Liz Carmouche going to be there? Is Velasquez ready for the takedowns this time? If she gets put back in that crucifix position, is Velasquez going to be able to work out of it? Does she know how to work out of it? Is it something she worked on? Because we know that Liz loves that position, right? It's going to be a really, really good fight. I think we're going to target maybe a bet on this fight, if not two. But yeah, it sets up for a pretty good co-main event. So let's jump into the next main card fight. We got Magomedov versus Patchy Mix, and this is going to be the semifinals for that tournament that Bellator has for a lot of money. This is going to be at 135 pounds, so let's get into it. Now your next fight is coming at you. It's going to be the Bellator 135 tournament semifinal between Magomedov and Patchy Mix. This is going to be a phenomenal fight, guys. Magomedov is 19-2. The guy is a killer. I mean, the guy is a really, really great fighter, but I think some of the things about Magomedov, some of the ways to beat him have been pushed out there, and I think it has to do with his athleticism. Magomedov is a overall amazing mixed martial artist. He could wrestle, he can strike, he has really tight boxing. But at the end of the day, I mean, I do see him as more of a wrestler. In his last fight, we were on the other side, and Magomedov made us pay, right? He ended up, he was losing that fight up until the end, where he got a guillotine choke and ended the fight against a very, very tough guy with a lot of heart. And I think the loss that Magomedov took recently helped him and motivated him to push for a finish, especially if he thinks the fight is close. So with this fight, I want to see Magomedov continue his climb, his ability to dominate these fights. He's accumulated an amazing record, but the guy is going up against a grappling wizard in Patchy Mix. I love Patchy Mix. We've been betting Patchy Mix for a while. I remember when Patchy Mix lost to Juan Archuleta for the title. Patchy Mix was young. I mean, he's still young. He's 29 years old, but at that time, he was young in MMA, and you could tell. You could see that the vet was able to take him into deep waters, was able to take him down and really wear on that gas tank. And in that fight, Patchy Mix showed a very suspect gas tank. So is the gas tank problem still going to show up? Ever since that loss, he's been making crazy improvements, but I know what Magomedov wants to do, and I've also seen Patchy Mix accept bottom when he's tired and allow himself to be dominated and lose minutes. Even though he's active from bottom, he continuously looks to try to get your back. I mean, this guy is the human backpack in my mind. He will backpack you. He will find a way with his long limbs to your back, and he will get on top of you. He will try to choke you out. If not, he will ride you that whole round or try to. You can reverse him in some of those positions, and I know Magomedov is really great at some of those reversals, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a really, really great fight where we have one guy who's a killer versus a prospect who's improving every single time he goes out there. A prospect that is seen as one-dimensional with his grappling because he is such a grappling wizard, but he works on his striking. He has long limbs. He's unorthodox currently with his striking, but he's tightening it up. And then we have, and honestly, the athleticism side is on his side. And Magomedov, we know he struggles with athletic guys, but at the end of the day, this guy is going to be looking for takedowns. He's going to be heavy, and he's going to try to wear on Patchy Mix. So this is going to be a tremendous fight. You guys want to know what side we're on or how to bet this fight? I'm going to let you guys know on Thursday night, if not Friday morning, so you guys can lock in those bets for this card, and we can make a ton of money. Okay, so the next fight, and this is going to be the last fight that we talk about because it's the last fight on the main card. We have Dalton Rosta versus Anthony Adams in the middleweight division in Bellator. So let's get into it. All right, so the last fight that we're going to talk about, it's going to be the last fight of the main card. We have Dalton Rosta versus Anthony Adams in the middleweight division, 185 pounds. We have the Hercules Dalton Rosta. The guy is yoked up. The guy has muscle for days. He's 7-0. His amateur record, he also has a great amateur record. This guy has wrestling for days. He's another guy who's been working on his striking, but comes from a wrestling background. I mean, the guy looks like an Adonis. He's yoked up, he's muscled up, and he's huge, right? He's 6 foot, 74-inch reach. The guy is big, and he's looking to dominate this fight. He's going to be a huge favorite, I'm pretty sure, against Anthony Adams. Anthony Adams is 9-2. He's not a pushover. I don't think he's ever been finished in his career, and this is what I think a lot of people are looking at. Is Dalton Rosta going to finish this guy? He's lost twice on the Contender Series. Anthony Adams has. He's had 2 chances and lost both of them. Again, in this fight, he wants to use volume and his length. He wants to try to touch Dalton Rosta while he can touch Dalton Rosta. And I mean, Anthony Adams has gone for takedowns in the past. He can chain wrestle. He likes to make things a little easier for him when those options are available. But against someone like Anthony Rosta, who is a wrestler himself, you have to wonder, is Adams going to be able to do this? Is Adams going to be able to use a high volume approach with his length? He is going to sport, I think, 2 inches longer. He's going to be 2 inches longer than Dalton Rosta in the reach department, around there. So I can see why he wants to use volume and length. I can see why he thinks that'll win him this fight. But Dalton Rosta is going to be a heavy favorite. He's going to come out here like a bat out of hell. I expect Dalton Rosta to strike early. I know that he's been working on his striking, and it's something some of these younger fighters have to accumulate time somehow, right? What's the easiest way for Dalton Rosta to accumulate that time and also have it be good experience? He can do it in a cage when someone is not necessarily on his level. He can work the stand-up. He can see, okay, do I have power? Can I knock these guys out? What does it feel to land on someone super clean and just rock their shit, right? That's what Dalton Rosta would like to do. He'd like to work a little bit of a stand-up, see how he's progressing, but eventually a lot of people are seeing Rosta come in here and dominating Adams. Does Adams have a chance? I'll let you guys know on Friday, if Adams has a chance, but Dalton Rosta should come out here and roll. He's expected to come out here and roll. Again, I think he's going to be a huge favorite, but it's going to be a fun night. We have a lot more action on the prelims. The prelims are going to be on YouTube, not on Showtime. All these fights on the main card are going to be on Showtime, but I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a fun card. And then we got the UFC on Saturday. But if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and make sure your post notifications are on. Comment down below, Belly. Let me know that you listened through this whole thing. Let me know that you heard this whole thing and that you didn't just make it all the way to the end, to the like, subscribe, and then just press end, right? Make sure that you guys comment down below, Belly. I want to hear you guys. I want to see the real ones out there. Okay, guys? Friday, Saturday, both days are going to be good days to win, and we're going to get on top of it. So let's get it.